Hi everyone, my name is Sanjay and welcome back to another piano lesson. In this class we'll be covering chords and we're going to be covering the theory part of chords. Next week we'll be covering it on piano. So yeah, let's get right into it. Okay, so let's start off with chords on the piano. So let's start off with what chords basically are. So chords are just two or three notes. Two notes is basically intervals. So chords are usually three notes played together at the exact same time. So a note is just one note. So take C. That's just one note. Now C E played at the same time is intervals. Remember, two notes at the same time are called intervals. If you want to learn about intervals, go back to my previous videos on the YouTube channel. It will be linked in description, and you can learn about that first before you come to chords. So two notes played at the exact same time are called intervals. So C E would be an interval. If we play C, E, and G at the same exact time, that's called a chord. So a chord is usually three or more notes. And yes, in a chord you could have more than three notes. You could have four, five, maybe even, yeah, just up to five notes in a chord. Because that's how many fingers you have. And honestly, it's usually played in the left hand, the chords. Because the chords are usually accompaniment. It's the harmony to accompany the melody. So these chords are usually in the background, played by the left hand. And since we have five fingers in our left hand, we can go up to five notes in a chord. So that is what chords are. Now I'm going to explain what major and minor chords are. So major chords usually have this happy / positive tone to it. So when you play a major chord on the piano, like these chords right here are all major, that means they can have black keys in it. Yes, chords can have black keys, they can have naturals, they can have flats. We learned about that. But major chords usually sound more positive and have a happy tone. And minor chords, on the other hand, have a negative and more derogatory tone. So it's not positive, it's the direct opposite of major. So there's different scales and many progressions of these major and minor chords and in different songs and pieces. So these chords are very helpful and key into learning piano, and we should all know how to play chords. So that's major. Major is positive tone, minor is negative, more derogatory tone. So now these right here, these chords are the most common chords played in piano pieces. You don't have to memorize the names for now. Just know how to play chords on the piano. It's usually played by one hand chords, because we can't use two hands, because chords like I just said, they're accompaniment. They just assist the melody. They're the harmony. So it's usually the left hand just playing it. So we have to learn how to play chords just with one hand. So all these chords are played with usually the left hand. And let's start off with these notes. This top major chord here is called C major. I know it doesn't say it, but it's called C major. You don't have to know these chords, but just listen once you play it on piano. Once you learn how to play it, next week we'll learn, you will see that major chords sound much more positive than minor chords, because like I said, minor chords are more negative. So these are the most common major chords. C major, which is comprised of the notes C, E, G, played at the same time. And next week I'll teach you how to what fingerings to use for different chords. It's usually the thumb, the third or middle finger, and the pinky that's played in chords. Unless if that's for three notes. But if you have more than three notes, like four notes in one chord, that means other fingers will get involved, like the fourth and second finger. And in a 5-note chord, that means all five fingers will be used, because we have 5 fingers and we have to use all of them, because chords are only played with one hand and one hand only. So that is C major. This is D major, comprised of D And then this is a flat or sharp. For sharp, it is a G sharp because this is the half step behind G, but it's also a F sharp because it is a half step above F here. So D, F sharp, and A. So that's D major. Now E major is E, and then this is A flat because this is the half step behind A, and B. So D, A flat, E, A flat, and B. F major here is F, A, and C. And then these chords they're usually around middle C. But since they're going to be played in the left hand, they could be played in treble clef, but they're most likely played in bass clef. G major has G, B, and D. And then A major has A, and then C sharp because it's a half step above C. And then, so A, C sharp, and E. So those are the major chords, and all of these notes will sound positive. Positive tone. So now these minor chords here, they will sound much more negative. So D minor is comprised of C, E flat because it's a half step behind E, and A, and G. So that is D minor, and we're going to be using these chords, just some of these chords, mainly the C major, because it is probably the most common used in beginner songs. So that's D minor. Next D minor is D, F, and A. Then E minor will have E, G, and B, and then F minor will have F, and then A flat because it's half step behind A. So F, A flat, and C. And G minor will have G, B flat because it's half step behind B, and D. So G, B flat, D. And then A minor will have A, C, and E. So these are all the minor chords which will have negative tone. So these are the most common major and minor chords used in piano composition / pieces. And we're going to be using some of these chords. We're going to try to use a major and minor chord next week when we play. And then we'll use these major and minor chords in songs. But we won't go to advanced levels. We'll stick to basic levels. So yeah, that is chords and what they're used for and what they are in the piano, and major and minor, and how they sound positive and negative. So yeah, that's basically it for chords. So that is it for today's lesson on chords and different major minor chords and how they're used on the piano. Next week we'll be applying those certain chords like the C major, D major, A minor chords onto the piano, and then after that we'll be using them in songs. We'll be using specific easier chords to learn, like C major in different songs and how it's used, and we'll be only using the easy chords like C major, and we're only going to be using 3-note chords, not more than that. So yeah, that's it for this lesson. Bye. See you next week.